Siona God, hello all. Osha Sahiya, good evening, Water. Thank you for watching. So this is part B of day, I said 26. Yeah, day 26 of reading Lone Wolf Alpha Squad, a copy over by James Rink. And these are his experiences. So it says February 22nd, 2007, triangle shaped silhouette on my leg. The scab in the center. I am not sure who did this. I've been told it's either Pleiadian tracking device or either a Pleiadian tracking device or a mind control gun. So that's right there. And I'm going to show you the picture on this one, and then we'll get the description on the next page. It's that spot there. Again, I will clean under my nails. It's from digging in the tomatoes, today. August 1, 2008, some kind of cut in the back of my mouth, which connects to scar tissue that follows along the perimeter of my mouth. Perhaps they installed HEGY cables mentioned in the Heather report, which stimulate the body's natural static electrical field, allowing superhuman abilities to occur. Sunday, March 13th, 2005. Nate's in trouble. I offered my support and friendship, but there was little I could do. Nate, bear, I'm bleeding. James, what happened? Nothing. It'll be a couple of minutes before my matter is wiped out of existence. What should I do? Can I pray for you? Nothing whatsoever at all ever. Who's wiping out your matter? The government to finally destroy me. I thought you told me you die in a war, not now. Meh. That's what I thought. But looks like they found a way to kill me. They have some atomic energy keeping my matter inside the cell. What do you mean by cell? Are you in prison? Sort of. I am telecommunicating through a power cord leading into a phone cord leading into a computer. They really got you in a jam this time. No poop. Every single atom in me will be disassembled and then so RE is capitalized and then assembled is lowercase, into a new. Will you stop existing? Oh yeah. What will be the end result? Well, somewhat of a new energy, maybe better, maybe worse. Will you still look and appear human? Nope, later. It says, you going just like that? Mm-hmm. I'm not one for drama, later. And with that, Nate disappeared. In some ways I was relieved, but I was determined to figure out what the heck happened to him. I have no idea if he really caused all that destruction, but he seemed to possess telekinetic abilities, and what he claimed was happening to him was now happening to me. In the following weeks, channeled material found on the internet began to claim Lucifer had returned back to the light. They claimed that Lucifer judged himself before his light councils and regretted what he had done, saddened at how some people on this planet have become so evil, even more evil than himself. He gave up on his no rules belief system. Instead of facing billions of years of negative karma, he chose instead to be no more by returning to the ethers, the lake of fire where we all came from. The lake of fire is not a place of torment. It represents the field of ethers surrounding us all. All souls originated from this field, and when we have become perfected, we will once again merge with this field and become one with creation. This is not a punishment by God. This happened because Lucifer chose it. God does not punish anyone. We choose to punish ourselves based on the laws of creation. This fulfills the prophecy. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had deceived the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive in a lake of fire burning with brimstone. Revelations 19:20. You know, in that mythology book that I'm reading to our son, by Edith Hamilton, at the end, at the beginning of the last chapter, it was talking about like heaven and hell and stuff and how things were created. And it's very similar to what this says right here. So anyway, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. I never knew that. Thursday, March 31st, 2005. Like, I didn't know that similar story spanned different, like, cultures and things. Anyway. On Thursday morning, I woke up and my eyes were itchy. I thought perhaps dirt was lodged in my eyelids. Upon closer inspection, the inside of my eyelids was inflamed, and I had a small incision in each corner. To me, it looked as if some kind of device was used to hold open my eyelids. Why this was done, I can only speculate, but my gut feeling would suggest the installation of a video camera eye implant. Around this time, I had a strange dream. I was taken to an underground base and was placed in an interrogation room. Military officers would demand that I tell us what you know. Kept saying, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. Then a tall gray walked into the room and telepathically demanded that I talk. Next thing I know, Next thing I know, I wake up and the covers were pulled off my bed. It was obvious I was taken out of bed because I was freezing, and whoever put me back didn't bother to put the covers on me. And in parentheses, it happens quite often, by the way. Despite the MyLabs, I also believe some of the benevolent factions of ETs are assisting me. My speech impediment, which I developed at the hands of my father, has been reversed for the most part. My autoimmune problems have been reduced. I don't have to contend with OCD or excessive anxiety anymore. I also had a growth spurt. I'm thankful that the sky doctors healed me. A psychic once told me the benevolent Greys were using their psychic abilities to heal me. Unlike MyLabs, the benevolent aliens use chi energy to heal naturally and don't need to use injections, torture, and pain to get results. I also seem to get strangers coming up to me in public claiming to know me. They would ask, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" I answered, "No, I don't know who you are." A few weeks later, same person would come up to me and ask the same question. Strange. Chapter 9, he's psychosomatic. Wednesday, May 5th, 2005. 6 weeks after Nate's disappearance, I did my best to sort out what happened. Between the barrage of needle marks, missing time, dizzy spells, and a spontaneous desire to binge on alcohol, which seems to be connected to alcohol usage phone surveys I was getting from the National Institutes of Health. What? I ultimately ended up in a psych ward. I was supposed to graduate from college during the weeks I was locked away. One of my friends suggested that if I drank a lot of alcohol, it would help unlock my memories. I later realized this man was placed into my life as a handler. At the same time, the National Institutes of Health seemed extremely interested in my alcohol consumption and drinking habits. They would ask me a very personal questions such as, how many friends do I have? What is my relationship with my family, and was I suffering from depression? I had a hunch the government was probably making a psychological profile, so I answered all the questions the opposite of what I normally would. Eventually, I got bored and began questioning the surveyor, asking why the National Institutes of Health were suppressing the cures for cancer. The surveyor laughed at that one and never answered. But my mom suspected these people were not who they claimed to be and ordered me to stop. After doing only a small portion of the survey, I politely ended the call. But over the next couple of weeks, they kept calling me back. Looking back at this, I wonder if they were trying to program me with some kind of subliminal triggers to start drinking heavily. My friend who doubled as my handler did trigger me to start drinking heavily. He would give me codes that would make me dizzy, such as 07946179069er. He insisted my parents were the ones causing my needle marks and drugging me with poison and instructed me to kill them. Since I don't believe in violence, he suggested that I should start binge drinking and said alcohol would neutralize the toxins injected into me. Around this time, my roommate comes in the room and sees me in a totally broken down state. The code he triggered me with seemed to activate some kind of dizzy spell and caused a racing heartbeat. At this point, I am hysterical and crying and gulping all these cans of beer and saying, the government is trying to poison me. I don't want to die. My spooked out roommate said, that's ridiculous. You know, I think you're just stressed out from your exams and the abuse your parents put you through. He tries to explain how the stress from the upcoming college graduation and abusive parents was causing me to have an emotional breakdown. I asked him how that explains away my needle marks, Nathan's disappearance, and visits from otherworldly beings. He was never able to give me a reasonable answer. The next morning, like I always did, I made my daily fruit smoothie for breakfast, and my handler informs me that my father broke into my apartment the night before and put poison in my food. As soon as he said that, my legs became numb and I collapsed on the floor from dizziness. He instructed me to call poison control. I said, I can't do that. If I tell them someone is poisoning me, they will think I'm crazy, he replied. Then make something up. You must talk or you'll die. I called the poison control center and told them I may have had possible food poisoning and I'd like to bring in a sample to get tested. The operator said that if I was poisoned, I needed to call 911, but I told them I only wanted to get my food tested. They said they couldn't help me, so I dialed 911 and they told me they would send an ambulance. The ambulance rushed me off to the hospital. I thought all this would clear up when the tests came back. At the very least, I would know what caused my symptoms, the symptoms I was having. When I was at the hospital, they put me in an evaluation room and ignored me for 8 hours. I requested no visitors because at that point, I didn't know who to trust. I kept waiting and waiting for their test results. While waiting, one of my family members showed up. I told her I really didn't want to talk right now. She asked why. I said, my father is trying to poison me. What do you know about that? She said, no, that's ridiculous. After a few minutes of nervous silence, she said, James, the doctors found no food poisoning. We're going to have you hospitalized. And she left. A few hours later, my parents visit me. At this point, I was exhausted and just wanted to go home and sort out any poison tested later on. My dad sat silently next to me. My mother knew something wasn't right. She thought the government effed with my head because of my involvement with Nate. She said, James, you've got to get out of here. You know these doctors are working for the government. I want you to go out there, apologize, and tell them that you're drinking too much. Tell them all of this is just an allergic reaction and you would like to just go home now. I was just about to do this, but I was starving. I hadn't had anything to eat in 14 hours, so my parents went to the cafeteria to grab me a bite to eat since I wasn't allowed to go by myself. After eating half the meal, my legs and arms became paralyzed yet again. But this time it was worse. I couldn't move at all, and I had a raging headache. All I could do was lie on a gurney, paralyzed, and watch helplessly as doctors walked by and ignored me while my parents stared. Was I programmed to think I was poisoned, or did my dad really slip something in my food? I have no idea. I don't feel like my parents would hurt me like that, so if they did do it, they would probably have been in an altar themselves. After I could regain my balance a bit, I confronted the nurse again and told her that my parents were trying to kill me. The nurse tried to calm me down and said a doctor would be available shortly for an evaluation, but no doctor arrived. 18 hours in the ordeal, I was brought before a social worker, asking me to sign papers to be voluntarily hospitalized. Since I felt like I had nowhere else to go, I signed them, and they trucked me to a separate facility where I remained for nearly 4 weeks. So this is how I found myself at the psych ward. No one is answering my questions. And up to that point, no one showed me any of my poison test results or what I was being diagnosed with. When I finally met with my first doctor, I expressed frustration at how I was paying $1,000 a day and still had not been permitted to see my own test results or diagnostic code. The doctor's reaction was aloof. He talked in front of me as if I was catatonic and didn't even exist. He told me how I needed to cooperate and let them do more tests. I told him that I thought I might be a victim of government mind control. He said, your story is too bizarre to be believable. So I asked him to hypnotize me so we can find out what may be going on, but he never agreed to try it out. Then they started drugging me. I complained to the nurses about my sensitivity towards medication, but my complaints only served the opposite effect. They assumed I was suffering from delusions and needed a higher dosage. The more I protested, the higher my dosage, until my will to fight was gone. Some of these meds would cause me to be drowsy all day. You know that feeling you get when you're up really late and just want to collapse in your bed? Now try feeling like that the whole day. And then imagine being in this state and a nurse a nurse threatening, so it's supposed to be threatening to lock you out of your bedroom unless you sit through a seminar on how medication is good for you while you're going in and out of consciousness. Okay. During these group therapy sessions, I had to listen to lectures on the right meds that work for you. When it became my turn to talk about my feelings, I asked a nurse, why is there no education on diet, vitamins, exercise, biofeedback, hypnosis, or homeopathy? In order to get well, one must address these multifaceted probably supposed to say aspects, but it says accepts of our health. Medications do not fix the problem. They only cover up the underlying chemical imbalances. Well, that's true. The nurse stumbled on a few words, but eventually agreed with me that there should be more focus on natural methods. She told me, we only prescribe medications here. Oh, that's sad. So I guess I'll go ahead and leave it there because I have like a minute left. But yeah, hopefully we get some more intel as we continue on. But I'm going to tell you, that man's journey, God dog, that is a rough one. Anyway, until we meet again, don't go hang you. Till we meet again, love you, mean it.